All right, and welcome back to another episode of Raul's World of Synths. This time around, we're going to be looking at a demonstration of the free-running, as it's called, ADSR. That's going to be opposed to a regular ADSR, which usually functions in the time domain, which is basically an attack, decay, sustain, release. And to make a long story short, this essentially is going to allow us to use our ADSR as a looping ADSR, or otherwise known as LFO. That's kind of the effect that it's going to be generating here. It takes a little bit of tweaking to the settings, so you'll have to bear with me as we do this. I did make some notes here, so hopefully it shouldn't take us too long to get into the nitty-gritty of the application of it. But it did take me some time to try and figure this guy out. So to start out with, let's just go ahead and do a little bit of patching here to get the patch set up. Now, to do this, you can find the patch online. Just do a little search for Doepfer A140 free-running ADSR or free-running ADSR and Doepfer A167 Comparator, and you should find that. So let's start by patching the upper output of our A140 and then going into the plus in of our comparator. There we go. And then we're going to take the lower output of this. This is going to be our LFO right here. So I'm going to leave this unplugged for now. I'm just going to leave it hanging here, but eventually we're going to be using this to go into the pitch of our VCO once I got the rest of the patch set up. The other thing that we need to do is on our comparator, we need to take the inverse comparator out right there and then take that over into the retrigger of our ADSR, just like that. Now we are going to need a gate to be triggering our ADSR because right now we don't have anything to trigger it. And essentially the way it's going to work is I'm going to be holding down a key, which is going to be triggering a gate. And then only when I'm triggering the gate will it then be in LFO mode. So as long as the gate is high, it'll be in LFO. And then when I let go, then the LFO will stop. We'll see that here in a moment. So I'm patching into the gate. There we go. And now I'm going to press a key on my keyboard. And you should see a representation of this here in a moment on the LED on the A140. So there we go. There's our light. And the gate that's coming into this, I'm going to kind of go over to a different module here. So I'm going to follow this red cable out. And I'm going to go up to my A190 MIDI CV interface. And you can see right here that the red cable is coming from my gate output of this module right here. So this is what's creating the gate. Right above that, I have a MIDI cable going in from my keyboard. So my MIDI keyboard is actually sending MIDI right here, and then a gate's coming out CV. So when I press a key, you can see that there's a gate being generated by the module. Okay? I just wanted to show you that real quick, so I'm popping back to the A140. So now that we can see that we're triggering, now it's time to kind of get our settings where they need to be so we can do the free-running ADSR. Now, I'm going to go ahead and patch into the pitch over here of our oscillator. But before I do, actually let me unpatch that so we can hear what our oscillator is going to sound like in the normal position. Okay, so there we go. Now, I'm going to go ahead and patch this. And then I'm going to just play it so you can hear what the normal ADSR sounds like when I press it. And let me move this cable out of the way so you can see. And when I hold it, you can hear that it's just kind of making a sustained pitch. So we're not in free-running ADSR mode yet. So now let's get the settings where we need to get it, and I can get it in the ballpark according to what I have written down. So I've written down a -4, or I'm sorry, actually a 4 in the plus in over here, And then my offset was around a -2. Looks about right. My attack was set to about an 8, which I think it is already set to an 8. My decay was set to about a 9.5, so maybe somewhere right there. My sustain was at about 6.5, so let's see, that's 6.5. Okay, that's about right. And then release was at about 0. I was in the low setting, so let me just hold this key down. Okay, so we're not in LFO mode yet. Okay, so I'm just going to hold the key, and then I'm going to tweak the settings of my comparator and see if I can get it there. And we should hear it here in a moment. I'm going to move the gap down. Yeah, that's getting closer right there. And now I'm still holding down the key. See, like if I let go, it's not cycling like that. But if I hold down the key, you can see that now my ADSR is responding relatively differently. Now, once I got it in that free-running ADSR mode, now I can go in and start tweaking the frequency of it by adjusting these. So I'm adjusting sustain or decay, or I can adjust attack. Let me actually change the octave of my oscillator. There we go. Okay, now let me adjust decay. So you can hear there, the LFO is speeding up. So you can get a few different variations on the LFO. And you can make it as subtle as you want. I'm still holding the key down. Just wanted to mention that. And there you have it. Free running ADSR, just let go of the key. So there you go. That's the free running ADSR patch. It was quite challenging actually trying to get that, but quite a bit of fun. So I'm going to unpatch all of this. And we're going to actually go into our next demonstration. For the next one, let me unpatch the oscillator. What we're going to do is actually utilize the comparator out of our A167. So we're going to use the comparator out here and then use it to trigger this sample and hold. And this is going to actually be the last demo that we're going to be doing. So we're going to actually just be sending in a voltage to the plus in and then sending a different voltage in the form of the A118 in the negative input. Then that comparator out is going to be triggered. It's going to be comparing those two voltages and then generating a trigger and then sending it over to our sample and hold. So let's set up our comparator patch. I'm going to go ahead and take a, let's do this waveform. Go into the plus in our comparator, and then I'm going to actually take my random output from over here. You can see it's generating negative and positive values. Go into my negative input right there, and then I'm going to take my comparator out. You can see that it's already generating some sort of a clock. It's going clock, 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 clock. And then I'm going to take that comparator out. Let me get a different cable. I'm going to use this to trigger my sample and hold. There we are. And then I'm going to take a couple more waveforms because I need something to sample and something to actually patch from here over into the pitch of my VCO. So let's see, what do we want to sample? Let's just go ahead and sample maybe this LFO over here. Might be feeling a little lonely. Let's take a different saw wave. And then we'll bring up the frequency of that one a little bit. put that into my sample in. You can see there's already some activity going on over here. And then I'm going to take the output of my sample and hold right here. And then I'm going to patch it right into my CV. My oscillator. So I should be getting pitch going in there. And now let's hear what that sounds like. And do triangle wave. And move this out of the way so you can see the comparator. And let's talk about what we're actually hearing. So what we're actually hearing is random notes being sent over to the A110. And then we actually have the comparator controlling the rhythmic aspect of the sample and hold. Now, normally you would use something like a clock, something fixed, to generate the sample and hold at the trigger input. Let's hear what that sounds like. So I'm unpatching comparator. Let's hear just a standard clock. Okay, so that's this one right here. And you can see it happening at a fixed rate. So fairly interesting in itself. But now with the comparator, since I have two different waveforms going in here and controlling how the comparator triggers, we get something like this. I do have a little bit of offset going on there, so let me adjust that. So we get a nice little kind of speeding up, slowing down kind of effect. You can adjust the subtlety or the not so subtle to your taste. So at this point you have several different ways you can do that. But since we're doing the demo on the A167, let's just do that. So this is sort of the standard setting of the gap, standard amount of triggering via the plus in and minus in. So if I bring the gap up, let's hear how that affects the triggering. So eventually it'll get to the point where it starts slowing down considerably. And so the closer I get to 0 at the gap, the more I'm back at the standard amount of triggering, if that makes sense. Because of course it's sort of always changing since I have a random output in this particular patch. But that's the basic idea. And then of course you could also try to exert a little bit of control over what the rhythmic aspect is coming out of the comparator by adjusting the plus in up here or the minus in right here. So you find something that you like. So fairly interesting kind of sound and rhythmic aspect to it. So if what you want is sort of a random type sound, random clock, as well as random notes, then this is a great little module to have in your arsenal. So just for the sake of doing it, since we have this patch right here, let's go ahead and listen to the inverse comparator out. So we heard what that sounds like, so let's hear this. Okay. Rhythmic aspect is going to be somewhat the same, except that it's going to be inverted at the comparator out. So let's try something a little sort of spontaneous and on the spot. I'm going to take the comparator out, and I'm going to use the positive to generate an envelope signal over here. And then I'm going to actually take this output here, and let's just go into the pitch of our oscillator at CV2. and bring down CV2. So on the positive versions, the envelope is being triggered. And on the negative, the sample and hold is being triggered. Let's bring that down a little bit. And you can see the gates being triggered right there every time the light goes off. All right. So, and with that little demonstration, that will be bringing our A167 Comparator demonstration and module series to a close. I hope that you found this series useful. We did a few different things this time around, such as the oscilloscope views in some of the previous demonstrations. And then just the module itself is something a little bit different. It's, I guess, what you would consider more a utility module within your modular system. But as you can see, you can get some fairly interesting results from some of your other modules and add a little bit more variety to your modular dealings. So, at any rate, I want to thank everyone for watching. Please stay tuned for the next series coming up. What I'm planning for the next one is going to be sort of an exploration of the Doepfer A196 phase lock loop. It's a module that I've received fairly a great deal of requests on, so we'll be exploring that in some great detail. But at any rate, thanks for watching, and please stay tuned for the next one.